This is a relatively advanced idea, just allowing your energy to move as it wants to. There's a lot of ways to misinterpret this. This means just allowing what is happening to arise, meeting it with awareness, feeling into it, not restricting it, not repressing it, not interfering with it, and then just allowing it to pass. And through this rhythm, you discover the natural rhythm or natural flow of existence. You start to feel this fluidity to experience, rather than everything feeling so solid and fixed and heavy. You start to actually recognize that there's an intelligence within existence, not as a belief, not as a dogma, but as something that you are completely and utterly conscious of. You basically recognize the very source of creation just by really understanding this one pattern of just arising and passing. And this just deepens and deepens and deepens and deepens. You watch your thoughts arise and pass. You watch your sensations arise and pass. You watch your emotions arise and pass. You essentially watch all the things that make up your sense of self arise and pass to the point where the ego, the self, begins to deconstruct. You recognize that it's not a separate phenomenon from anything else. That its separate and independent existence was this illusion that our minds erected in order to survive and navigate reality, or that our minds erected in order to survive and navigate reality. Okay. I think I said that properly. So this idea of allowing your energy to move as it wants to, it's not this dangerous thing. See, it's easy to think that it's like I just act on any impulse that I have. In fact, what I'm talking about here requires quite a strong impulse control. It's this ability to just allow something to exist without needing to push it down. See, as humans, we're very repressed creatures. This has been happening in our culture for thousands of years, in our history, right? It happens nowadays. Our own ego does it. Our psychology is wired to do it until we begin to deconstruct the ego. So you have to really wonder, why do we feel so unsafe just allowing something to exist as it is, a thought, a feeling? Why do we feel so unsafe just watching everything arise and pass? It's because essentially we start to realize there's nothing to grasp onto in our world that's going to give us lasting security. There's nothing in the formed world that is going to do that. There's nothing in the formed world that's going to give us lasting happiness because it's arising and passing. The moment you grasp onto it, it's already reorganized. It's already vibrated, it's shifted. Nothing stays the same for even 1 second. So our ego erects all these illusions of I have to do this and that for security and stability. And it does that in order to survive, and it's very useful. But up until a certain point of development, we can begin to just break out of that. And we can actually move into just experiencing reality as it is, beginning to see reality clearly, rather than always needing to distort it in order to serve our particular agenda. This is what the ego does. I was watching this short documentary on this dictator in this country called Equatorial Guinea, I believe, in Africa. I think it's on the west side of Africa. And I think it's actually right on the ocean. And this man brought him some statistics. And the dictator killed him right there for not knowing how to count. Right? Because when the ego is so strong, it denies reality. The mind has an infinite capacity to deny reality in order to just further a particular agenda. Right? So learn to count. It just kills the guy. He can't accept what is the case here, what's true about the statistic. The guy doesn't know how to count. Right? That's how he rationalizes it. And that's a very gross example of it because that's a very low conscious human being. But as the mind evolves, it can do this in similar ways, but more so with ideas. And then once it evolves past that, right, it doesn't end there, it sees this whole game and it just like, it's like, I'm done with this. Right? We still do this, but with beliefs, with ideologies, with politics, for example. It's just one great example. So when you allow your energy to move as it wants to, it's this radical non-repressing of what's happening. Because when you're actually repressing something, the energy is going to manifest in some other unexpected, kind of strange way, unhealthy, dysfunctional way. It doesn't actually work. And funny enough, when you really begin to allow everything to arise and pass, you start to reconnect with a lot of inner child parts, that sense of curiosity that once guided you to go and look at what's behind that curtain or what's in that box. That sense of playfulness, that sense of just acting in alignment with yourself without needing to rationalize it or justify it, without needing to treat everything as a means to an end, treating life as an end unto itself. This doesn't mean that you can't have a goal and go after it. This just means that you're so much more connected to life. You're so much more in tune with it. You're really tasting how sweet life is moment by moment because you're not emotionally disconnected from it. You're not disconnected from the felt sense of it. So another core aspect of this is that you're allowing a lot of your deepest instincts to emerge once again, rather than always repressing them. So regardless of what is arising, you allow it to arise. This doesn't mean that you're not going to feel sadness. This doesn't mean that if someone dies who you care about, you're not going to feel grief. It's still going to be there. The human experience is still going to be there. It's just that you're embracing and accepting more and more and more and more and more of it. And through this acceptance, you learn how to navigate these energies and allow them to move through you in non-repressed ways. So this means allowing yourself to feel relaxed when you're relaxed, allowing yourself to feel tired when you're tired, allowing yourself to feel grief when there's grief, allowing yourself to feel sadness when there's sadness, allowing yourself to feel anger when there's anger. The full spectrum of existence gets embraced. Existence itself does not favor any particular aspect of itself. The world, in a sense, embraces all of itself. The universe doesn't say like this part is better than that part. It's just this all-encompassing embrace. And you want your mind to mimic that as much as possible. Not in this way where you just allow anyone to abuse you. Right? So it's like you still have all these distinctions. You still have boundaries. It's just that there's this lack of fighting against what's happening. There's this lack of struggling against the present moment. There's this lack of attacking experience. Super funny, because when you actually integrate that, your ability to set boundaries gets way better. You'd think that it gets worse. If I just allow everything to be as it is, people will abuse me and I just got to let it be as it is. No. By allowing everything to be as it is, by really seeing it, feeling it in this sort of meditative style fashion, actually practicing meditation, you can sense into the energies of life, the felt experience of life. You can feel these sort of like energetic transactions and dynamics even more, and set boundaries in a way more effective way. Totally the opposite. By really coming into contact with your experience in a conscious way and allowing the energy to move as it wants to, you're not going to like become a loose cannon and start getting addicted to all sorts of stuff. Addictions are ways that we cope with emotional black holes because we've withdrawn our awareness from certain aspects of ourselves, whatever the nature of the addiction is. I'm talking about bringing our conscious attention back into those black holes, back into those parts of us that we've abandoned, and allowing even the pain of that to arise and then pass. And we don't want to use like the arising and passing as a way to push away experience. Like, okay, the pain has arisen and it's got to pass now. It's got to pass. We got to let go of it. We got to pass. It's like allowing the energy to do as it wants to. Letting go of your self-agenda. Allowing it to arise, do whatever it wants, and then pass on its own agenda. It's super funny because the ego is like this controlling, contracting, repressing mechanism. What if we let go of controlling? What if we let go of contracting? What if we let go of repressing? This literally just threatens the entire structure of the ego in a very direct way. That's why it's so difficult, because like your sense of psychological identity will start collapsing and you'll recognize what you actually are: pure, empty consciousness. The very source of creation from which everything arises and everything passes back into. So that's it for this video. If you guys are interested in working with me one-to-one, you can apply to do so. Link is somewhere. If you're sincere, I trust that you'll find it. Take it easy.